Imagine a world where your everyday purchases cost more, but your country's industries thrive, jobs multiply, and the government rakes in extra cash. Sounds like a dream, right? That's the promise of tariffs, a hot topic since Donald Trump's election win thrust them back into the spotlight. He's wielding tariffs as both a negotiation weapon and a fix for America's economic woes. But can this 19th century strategy work on today's globalized world? Let's dive in and explore why tariffs might just be the bold move the US needs, or a costly misstep. A blast from the past. Tariffs aren't new. Back in the 1800s, they were America's go-to trade policy, fueling industrial growth and bankrolling the government without an income tax. The US used tariffs to shield its budding industries from European giants, sparking a manufacturing boom. Alexander Hamilton, the guy from the musical, championed this approach, rejecting pure free market ideals to build a self-reliant economy. By the late 19th century, tariffs covered 90% of federal revenue, and industries like steel and textiles flourished. So why not dust off this playbook? Trump's economic nationalism echoes this era, aiming to revive America's industrial heartland and slash taxes. But the world has changed. Today's consumers love cheap goods from global supply chains, and tariffs could shake things up, big time. Why tariffs? Why now? Even free trade fans admit tariffs have their place. Growing economies like India, Brazil, and China use them to protect their industries. Tariffs can boost local production, create jobs, and fill government coffers. They're like a wrench, perfect for tightening a bolt, useless for brain surgery. The trick is knowing when and how to use them. Here's the deal. Tariffs are taxes on imported goods paid by businesses bringing them into the country. This makes foreign products pricier, nudging buyers toward homegrown alternatives. It's called import substitution industrialization, a fancy term for growing your own industries. Historically, tariffs helped the US compete with Europe's industrial might. But today's economy is a different beast, with complex supply chains and consumers hooked on low prices. So what happens when you slap tariffs on everything? The consumer catch. Tariffs sound great for factories and jobs, but there's a catch: higher prices. When businesses pay tariffs, they often pass the cost to you, the consumer. It's like a hidden tax. Take washing machines in 2018. When the US imposed tariffs, prices for imported washers spiked. Domestic producers, seeing an opportunity, raised their prices too, even though they didn't pay the tariff. Worse, dryers, not tariffed, got pricier because they're often sold with washers. A Federal Reserve study showed consumers paid more than the tariff itself, with prices jumping higher than expected. In total, the 2018 to 2019 tariffs cost Americans $80 billion, an indirect tax hike, one of the biggest in decades. For washing machines alone, consumers shelled out an extra $1.5 billion annually, while the government earned just $82 million. The tariffs created 1,800 jobs, but each job cost consumers $815,000 a year. That's a pricey way to boost employment. A simpler tax, like a small value-added tax, could have funded those jobs for less. The business backfire. Tariffs don't just hit consumers, they can kneecap industries too. Businesses rely on imported materials like steel. In 2018, a 25% tariff on steel imports made everything from cars to construction equipment costlier to produce. Profit margins shrank, leading to layoffs in industries like automotive and machinery. While steelmakers hired more workers, other sectors lost more jobs, resulting in a net decline in manufacturing employment. For every steel job gained, multiple others vanished. Then there's retaliation. When the US tariffed China, China hit back with tariffs on American farm goods like soybeans and pork. US farmers lost billions in export revenue, forcing the government to spend $61 billion propping them up, almost wiping out the $66 billion gained from tariffs. It's like playing economic whack-a-mole. You gain in one area, lose in another. The long game. Can tariffs win? Short-term pain doesn't mean tariffs are a bust. In the long run, they can reshape economies. Look at the 1964 tariff on light trucks. It turned pickups and SUVs into cash cows for U.S. automakers like Ford and General Motors, saving the industry from decline. Foreign companies like Toyota and BMW built factories in the U.S., creating tens of thousands of jobs. Tariffs did their job. They protected local industry and lured investment. But there's a flip side. With less competition, U.S. truck makers got cozy, innovating less and charging more. Consumers paid higher prices for lower quality vehicles. For tariffs to work, governments must ensure domestic industries stay competitive, not complacent. Without enough local players, you get market power abuse. Bad news for shoppers. Sneaky workarounds. Tariffs are designed to protect local industries by making imported goods more expensive, but they're not foolproof. Many companies find creative ways to avoid paying them. A well-known example is Mercedes-Benz. Faced with a 25% tariff on light trucks, the company began shipping vans to the U.S. in pieces and reassembling them in American facilities, effectively sidestepping the tax. Other companies avoid tariffs by moving production to countries with free trade agreements, like Mexico or Vietnam. Instead of bringing jobs back to the U.S., some even relabel their products in third countries to make it look like they come from tariff-exempt regions. These legal workarounds show that tariffs don't always have the intended effect. While they may pressure some firms to adjust their supply chains, they rarely result in a major return of jobs to American soil. Instead, production is often shuffled around the globe, leaving the core problem of outsourcing mostly untouched. Why tariffs might still matter? Despite the costs, tariffs have a strategic edge in today's tense world. Relying on rivals for critical goods, like semiconductors, energy, or food, is risky. If tensions escalate or war breaks out, trade embargoes could cripple an unprepared economy. Tariffs can reduce this vulnerability by encouraging local production of vital goods. At this point, it's less about economics and more about national security, a debate worth exploring further. In conclusion, the tariff debate goes far beyond dollars and cents. It's about power, politics, and national identity. As countries face rising global tensions, many are stepping away from free trade and turning to protectionism to defend their economies and political interests. This marks a major shift fueled by nationalism and concerns over security and self-reliance. Tariffs can be useful tools when used carefully. They might protect industries, boost government revenue, and reduce dependency on rivals. But if misused, they can backfire, raising prices, shrinking exports, and damaging international relationships. The 21st century economy is interconnected, so every tariff decision carries both domestic and global consequences. America must strike a balance, bold enough to protect its interests, but wise enough to avoid isolation or retaliation. In this complex world, trade policy can't be one size fits all. It requires strategy, precision, and above all, a long-term vision that goes beyond politics. Thanks for watching. Stay curious and subscribe our channel for more insights.